Hi, Phanessa here. In this video, I am going to demonstrate how to crochet this slouch beanie here. This is the Regan slouch beanie, and this is a lighter version of the knit Regan beanie and cowl. I always like to use lighter weights with crochet so that there's not as much bulk, but I love using super bulky weight yarn for my knit beanies. Okay, so I will be using two different colors. These are from Hobbii and it's Divina. Okay, it is a medium weight and it recommends using a 5.5, which is a US 9 or I. For this tutorial, I am going to use, I'm going to use an H for the brim. And then I'm going to use a 10, so a 6 millimeters. And that's because I need a larger hook for the stitches that I'm going to be using. Okay, so tape measure, scissors, some stitch markers, and a tapestry needle. So this is actually for larger weight yarn, so depending on what you're using. Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be my contrasting color. So even though this is going to be the color of my brim, when I start the body, I'm going to use this other color here, and this will then be the contrasting color. Okay, start with the contrasting color and grab your smaller hook. Okay, start with a slip knot. Okay, so I'm going to chain 10. This is going to be the height of your brim, so you can chain as many stitches as you'd like. I'm chaining 10, so I'll end up with 9 stitches for my brim. So that's 10. So I'm going to work into the back side of these stitches. So here's the front side. If you twist it and turn it, there's these back loops or humps. That's what I'm going to work into. So into the second chain from the hook, here's the first chain, there's the second. I'm going to turn over and insert my hook into the back of that chain stitch. So I'm just going to work one slip stitch. So yarn over, pull through, and then through the loop on your hook. Next chain stitch. You can go through the front side if you'd like. I just like going through the back humps. Pull through and through. So continue working into each chain and working a slip stitch. Okay, but this is my last stitch here. So that is row 1, and I have 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, row 2, you want to chain 1 and turn. So now we're going to work into the back loops of every stitch. So this stitch here is your chain 1, which does not count as a stitch. This is going to be your first stitch, so that's this one here. Again, this is just a chain 1. Okay, so that's chain 1, that's your first stitch. This right here is your back loop, and this one here is your front loop. Typically, we work through both loops when working a normal stitch. So you're going to work 1 slip stitch in every stitch, and we're working into the back loops. Again, here's the chain 1, here's the first stitch, into the back loop, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the loop that's on your hook. Okay, so slip stitch into the next stitch, through the back loops, work a slip stitch. So continue that all the way across, working 1 slip stitch through the back loops of every chain stitch. So go ahead and work 1 slip stitch in every stitch across, working just in the back loops. So this will give it a nice ribbing for your brim. Okay, so count your stitches. Make sure you have 9 or whatever your number is. Now you're just going to repeat that last row until you have the desired circumference. So you want to chain 1 and turn. And I wanted to show you quickly how confusing this might look if you're a beginner. So there's lots of these V's kind of in every direction, almost like a chord right now. In order to figure out where you're supposed to be working in, you would follow your chain stitch. So this is the loop that's going to be on your hook. Right here is where this loop is coming out of. So that's your chain 1, and then this loop here is going to be where you want to insert your hook. And again, we're still working through the back loops, so you'll be inserting your hook through the back loops. I say that because when I first started working slip stitch ribbing, it was really hard for me to figure out which side was which. Okay, so into the first stitch, this is your chain 1, into the next stitch, work a slip stitch through the back loop. Next stitch, work a slip stitch. Okay, so go ahead and repeat all the way across, and then repeat the same row until you have the number of rows that you need for the circumference. You can check out the pattern, which will have a standard sizing chart. And you want to make sure that you end on the same side as your beginning tail. So here's my tail. When I work back and forth, I want to make sure I stop here on this side. The slip stitch ribbing is extremely stretchy. It's more stretchy than a single crochet ribbing or a half double crochet. So when you're measuring, you want to make sure that you pull your stitches or your brim to make sure you have the right size. Again, if you need to, count your stitches. Okay, so there's 9 stitches. Now repeat until you have the desired circumference. Okay, so I've got my brim ready. So now I'm happy with the size, and I ended on the same side as the beginning tail. So right here. So you can see this is quite stretchy. I would say that this is about, let's see, about 21 inches in circumference. Now I'm going to join the edges. So I like to bring the beginning end up and in front of the last of this piece here that I am still hooked onto. So you're going to work slip stitches across. You're going to find the first stitch on this side. I'm going through both loops because this was the foundation chain where I worked through the back humps, so you can actually see the 2 loops. If you don't see the 2 loops, don't worry, just work into the 1 loop. On this side, though, the back side, I want to insert my hook through the back loops, yarn over, pull through this side, and then through the loop that's on my hook. Okay, so the next stitch, we just worked into this one, into the next stitch, and back here into the back loops of the next stitch, and then work a slip stitch. Okay, so you want to continue to work your slip stitches all the way across. Make sure you work through the back loops on the back side here. Okay, this is my last stitch. Now you can turn it right side out. Okay, and there is your seam. It's barely visible. Now we're going to start on the body, and you want to switch your hook to the larger size. So now we're going to work single crochets around the brim. Okay, so this pattern is in multiples of 6, and when you're working your single crochets, you're going to work 3 single crochets for every 4 rows. So here's 1 row, that's 2, 3, and 4. So in these 4 rows, I'm just going to work 3 stitches. I'm going to skip 1 row, work 3 stitches, skip 1 row, and work 3 stitches. You want to work in that pattern, working 3 rows and then skipping 1. So if you need to increase or decrease, you can skip more rows, or you can include some of the rows. Okay, so for example, I have 77 rows, and since we're working in multiples of 4 with working 3 single crochets and skipping a 4th row, I'm going to divide 77 by 4, and that's 19.25, so approximately 19. And if I multiply that by the 3 stitches that we're going to work around, that's 57.75. So approximately 57. In order to arrive at a number that's in multiples of 6, I need to increase 3 stitches. So somewhere around the brim evenly, instead of skipping the 4th stitch, I'm going to work an extra stitch into that 4th row. But I'm only going to do that 3 times so that I increase a total of 3 stitches. I mean, that's just the guidance. You can work your single crochets however you like, whatever you're comfortable with. So chain 1. Okay, so into the first row right here, this is the top of this row. Okay, you see all these V stitches. This is the top. That's where we're going to insert our hook. Make sure you work your setup round loosely. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. So that's 1 single crochet. When you're working these stitches, make sure that it's loose. So usually when I pull the loop up, I make sure that it's a little bit higher than this one, so you can see this. If I left it like that, it'll be too tight for the next round. So I pull it up a little bit, and then I complete my single crochet. I'm going to work into the next row. At the very top, you want to make sure that you go through 2 loops. Okay, this is the next row. Again, we're working right into the top right here. So right there. And work a single crochet. So I have worked 3 single crochets. I'm going to skip this one here and go directly to this one. So I'm skipping this row. I'm going into this one here. Into the next row. So right there. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I skipped this one. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to skip this one, and then I'm going to repeat all the way around. I'm going to make sure that I have stitches in multiples of 6, and if I need to increase, I'll go ahead and not skip one of these or work 2 in one row. However you need to increase or decrease to a stitch count that will be in multiples of 6. Okay, so I've worked all the way around, and I have stitches in multiples of 6. This is my first stitch here. I'm going to work a slip stitch to the first stitch, and oops, let's take this out. Okay, from this point on, I'm going to incorporate the blue color, and we're going to start crocheting with the blue color. This one is going to be picked up every 6th stitch, and we're going to work into the post of every stitch. Okay, so that's the waistcoat stitch, and that'll give it the knit look. Okay, so for the very first stitch, you see this here, I'm going to insert my hook right into that top stitch there. So you're going right through the post. Okay. Now I'm going to grab the blue, and I'm going to complete the single crochet with this blue color. Okay, so now you want to make sure that this strand here is going to be in the front of your work, and you want it under your working yarn here. So now I'm going to start crocheting with this blue one. I'm going to work 5 single crochets, and then I'm going to pick this one up, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we just worked into this one. Here's the next stitch here. Okay, so right into the next post, I'm going to work 1 single crochet. Okay, so this is the next stitch here, right through the post. Work 1 single crochet. when you're working these stitches, make sure that it's loose. So usually when I pull the loop up, I make sure that it's a little bit higher than this one, so you can see this. If I left it like that, it'll be too tight for the next round. So I pull it up a little bit and then I complete my single crochet. That's 2. Okay, next stitch right here on top. Okay, right between the V's. Okay, so you see how I went in between these 2 loops? Again, you want to pull this up a little bit and then work your single crochet. So that's 3. Here's the next post. And I'll leave a link for a video where I go a little bit slower and these stitches are easier to see because I use larger weight yarn, heavier weight yarn. Okay, so that's 4, and here is my 5th stitch here. Okay, so make sure you go in between the V's, and that's the post of your single crochet. So this is your single crochet, that's the post of your single crochet. Okay, so now that I have 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to incorporate this into my next stitch. Okay, so when you drag this across, you want to make sure it's loose. You don't want it too tight because you're going to have to pull this up later. Okay, so with this above, because I want to go under this one here, I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch. Okay, and then I want to grab this color yarn and pull it through. Okay, so now that's the only thing we're going to do with that color. We're going to finish the single crochet with the blue again. Okay, so now make sure this is in the front again, and we're going to repeat working 5 single crochets and then work a single crochet with this color, and we're working through the post again. Make sure this is in the front. So here's the next stitch. That's 1. There's the next stitch. 2. Try to work these very loose. You may need to go up a hook size if you have trouble with tension. 3. 4. And 5. Okay, so this one I'm going to drag this one across, make sure it's loose. You don't want that too tight. And then when you work into the next stitch, you want to make sure that this is on top. So I'm going to insert my hook into this next stitch here. And what I mean by on top is it's on top here and not below here. Okay, grab this color here and then complete it with the blue. So this is contrasting and that's the main color. Okay, so just repeat that all the way around. One. Again, we're working right through the post. 2. 3. 4. And 5. Okay, grab this color here. Okay, so I did what I told you not to do. Make sure this is in the front. Okay, let me complete this one here. Okay, now I'm going to place that in the front and work 5 single crochets through the post with the blue color. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now I'm going to bring this over and go, my hook is going to go under that into the next stitch, grab the brown or whatever color that is, and again make sure this is loose. Okay, and then complete this single crochet with the blue color. Okay, and then make sure this yarn is in the front. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add this color here. I think I was calling this one the contrasting. Okay, complete it with the main color. Make sure this is in the front, and then continue. Okay, so I'm all the way around and I've worked my 5 single crochets, and then this one I'm going to bring to the back. Okay, so there's a correction to this video right here. After you place the contrasting color in the back, just drop it, and instead of inserting into the first stitch, you still want to insert through the post of the first stitch. I should have worked the very first stitch with the main color because we started off with the contrasting color, so you want to work your very first stitch with the blue color. You can place a marker right there. Okay, now we're going to work 2 rounds of just the blue. I'm going to drop this, make sure it's in the back, right into the next stitch. Work 1 single crochet. And we're working in a continuous round, we're not going to join. So into the next post, again make sure it's loose, single crochet. Into the next post, in the next stitch here. Okay, so that's the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one is right there. Okay, so the next one is going to be in this post here. Remember, we picked up the color for 1 stitch after working 5. Okay, next stitch is right here. So just work 1 single crochet in every stitch. We're working the waistcoat stitch, so we're going right through the post. The next one's going to be here. Okay, move that away so you could see the next one here. So I'm going to work 2 rounds of just single crochets using this color here. Now that I think about it, I probably should have just worked this one in blue. So if you see that change in the pattern, that is why. So I've worked all the way around, and I'm going to work 1 more round of just this color here. You can move your stitch marker up if you'd like. I'm just going to leave that one there. So I'm back to the beginning on my second round of just this blue color. Okay, now we are going to stagger where we place these stitches. So if you look at these 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this one here is going to be the first one I will incorporate this color into. So that's 1, 2, 3. Again, if you want to move your marker, you can place your marker on the first stitch there. Two and 3. Okay. So now we have this one still back here. What I'm going to do now is go under this strand here for the next stitch, okay, and insert my hook into the next stitch, and then I'm going to pick up the same color, okay, that's why you needed this strand to be loose. Now I'm going to complete it with the blue color. I'm going to tighten that just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to bring it forward. We're going to pull the strands across 5 stitches. So here's the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's the 5th. Okay, just like we did before, we're going to pull this across, okay, loosely. This time we're going to go under this one, okay. Okay, so you want to make sure you pull this across. Okay, just like this one, we're going to pick up this strand here and into the next stitch. So we worked that one, we're going to work into this one. So under this strand into that post, and then pull up a loop. So this got loose, so I'm just going to gently tug my blue yarn. And again, you always want to complete this with the blue yarn. Okay, again, just make sure this is loose. I'm just making this up as I go. I tried different methods and different ways, and I settled with this method here. I think it resembles the stitch I use in my Regan cowl and beanie. So hopefully it looks right, because I haven't actually seen the finished product yet. So remember to place this in the front and work your 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. Drag this across, make sure it's loose, and you want to go under this when you insert your hook into the next stitch. Okay, grab the strand there, the contrasting, and then complete it with the blue color. Again, make sure this is loose. You don't want to have to pull out after you've gone so far ahead. Okay, make sure this yarn is in the front, and then you just repeat that all the way around. 5 single crochets with your main color, so your blue here. That's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, pull this across, make sure it's loose. Under this strand, okay, well, under both of the strands, insert your hook into the next loop or next stitch and pull up a loop. I always check to make sure that's loose right there before I complete my stitch. Bring this forward and 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is where it's going to be a little different. This is the beginning of my round, and I just worked under this loose strand here. I'm actually going to pull this to the front again because we actually started that 3 stitches in. So I'm going to work the 5 stitches. That's going to go right into the next round. So that's the last 2 stitches of the round. Here's the first, which is the 3rd stitch now, and then 4, and 5. Okay, so I'm inserting this video for this section here. You see how it's not touching, so in order to fix that, when you get here, this is what you will do. So you're going to complete your last stitch, and then you have this strand here, and what I did here was just place it here and continued on. So instead of doing that, you want to insert your hook from behind to grab this yarn here. Okay, so there it is. And then you want to make sure this is loose. Okay, so this will actually be your next stitch. And I'm going to put this in the back because we're going to work 2 rounds of just the blue. So you can see this is the very next stitch here. So I'm going to insert my hook, and then I'm actually going to put it through this loop because I don't want it to fall out. And I'm going to grab the blue, pull it through, and then complete my single crochet round. So now that I've worked that stitch, I'm going to tug on this so that it's a little bit tighter. Now we're going to work 2 rounds again of just this color. I'm going straight into the next stitch. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one in the back. So this one here, I'm just going to leave that in the back and work my 2 rounds of just the blue color, just like you did before. So I've worked 2 rounds of this color here. I am starting the next round. So I'm going to go under this strand here, and I'm going to grab the yarn from behind, insert my hook, and here's the yarn that I have dropped from 3 rounds below. I'm going to pull up a loop, and then I'm going to complete the single crochet with the blue color. Again, you want this in the front, and then we're going to work 5 single crochets. One, two, three, okay, so that's 5. I'm going to drag this across. For the next stitch, I'm going to go under this strand again and into the next stitch here. Grab this color, and then I'm going to complete my single crochet with the blue color. Again, you want this in the front. Make sure this is loose. That was kind of tight right there. Okay. This yarn needs to be in the front. Whoops. And then we continue. So this is just like this round here, except we have it staggered, but the process is the same. So 5 single crochets, and then you want to incorporate this one. So you go under into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and then complete it with the blue color. Move this yarn in the front and then continue all the way around. So if you get kind of lost, look for these 2 stitches in the previous rounds, and then between those 2 stitches are 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's the center one, which should be the same column as this one here, is going to be where you're going to pick up this strand here. So I've got 5 stitches, and I'm going to now incorporate this color here, going under that loose strand into the next stitch here. Grab the yarn, and now I'm going to complete with the blue color. Always forget. Move this to the front. And then 5 single crochets. So you're going to complete your last stitch, and then you have this strand here, and what I did here was just place it here and continued on. So instead of doing that, you want to insert your hook from behind to grab this yarn here. Okay, so there it is, and then you want to make sure this is loose. Okay, so this will actually be your next stitch, and I'm going to put this in the back because we're going to work 2 rounds of just the blue. So you can see this is the very next stitch here. So I'm going to insert my hook, and then I'm actually going to put it through this loop because I don't want it to fall out. And I'm going to grab the blue, pull it through, and then complete my single crochet. So that's the first stitch of the next round. So now that I've worked that stitch, I'm going to tug on this so that it's a little bit tighter. Okay, so now we're just going to leave this one in the back, and we're going to work 2 rounds of just the blue color, 1 single crochet in every stitch. So that is going to be your repeat, and you see how now it's looks way better than this one. I'm gonna have to fix that. So you're going to repeat rows 2 through 7 until you're happy with the size, and then we'll start decreasing. Okay, so I actually put this on my son's head, and it was just about the right height that I want. I know I'm going to add a few more inches in the decrease, but I'm going to stop here. So in the pattern, you're going to see that I specifically tell you to stop after a certain round. There's actually 2 options. I mean, because it's staggered, so there's actually 2 areas that you can stop before you decrease, and if you choose to do that, I'll explain that as I go to let you know if you did not stop where I did, then this is what you will do. Okay, so you can see I just worked this row here, and then I'm working my 2 rounds, or I should be working my 2 rounds of just single crochets, but I'm only going to work 1 round of single crochets, and then I'm going to start decreasing. So the other option that you have is to just continue until you have the height that you want. So without shaping, all you do is cinch up the top when you feel that it is the right height. So that's the easy way to do it. And keep in mind though, it will bunch up on the top. Some people don't like that style. I actually don't mind at all. So, but I am going to decrease this one. Just a little bit, not too much. I'm so excited about how this turned out, because when I was playing with the swatch that I had, just to try and get the stitches as close to the stitch I used on the Regan beanie and cowl for the knit version, and I did use super bulky weight yarn, but this one is medium weight, number 4, and you can always adjust to use whatever weight you want with this pattern, just as long as you measure as you go. You can definitely try with different weights. So you adjust the height based on your desired slouch size. I like my slouch to be about 2 inches or so. So basically you want to stop after you work the round that is right after this round. So if you remember, you work 2 rounds of just the single crochets with the blue, and then you incorporate this color again by pulling this up. So after you've done this round here where you add this contrasting color, you want to work 1 more round of just the blue instead of 2 rounds, because on the second round we're going to decrease. So the pattern is going to be written for this one, which is stopping after the first set. Okay, so here is my first stitch there. I'm going to finish my last single crochet. So now I'm going to work 1 single crochet on top of this. So this is the first stitch. Place my marker. Okay, now remember how we have 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 stitches between these 2 here. So if you stopped on the other row, you'll actually end up here, and what you want to do is slip stitch until you get to the stitch right before here. So you can follow the instructions for this, okay? If you ended after round 5, you will start here. Just slip stitch 3 over until you get here, and then follow along. And then you can change your first stitch to this one here, and then follow along from here. Hope that makes sense. Okay, my contrasting color is still in the back. I'm going to work 1 single crochet, and then these 3 in the center, I'm going to work 3 of them together, and I'm still going to work through the post. 1 single crochet. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the next post, yarn over, pull up a loop, okay, into the next stitch there, right through the post, pull up another loop. Finally, in the third stitch, pull up another loop. Okay, so now I have 1 loop coming out of the 3, each of the 3 stitches, and then you should have 4 loops. Yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Okay, so this part right here is going to count as your stitch for those 3 stitches that you just decreased. Okay, so now you work 1 single crochet here, 1 here, and 1 here. So you're decreasing 3 stitches within those 5 stitches, if that makes sense. So there's 2, and these are the 5 stitches I was talking about. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to decrease the center 3, so I'm going to work 1 single crochet there. Now I'm going to decrease these 3 stitches. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay, into the next 2 stitches you want to do the same thing. Insert your hook and pull up a loop. 1 more, insert your hook and pull up a loop. With 4 loops you want to yarn over and pull through all 4. So I'm going to repeat that all the way around. 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease in these 3 stitches here. When you get to the end, you're going to end with 1 stitch after you work your decrease. So when you work all the way back around here. Okay, so I'm at the end here. There's my stitch marker. So you're going to end with decrease these 3 stitches, and then you'll have 1 stitch left before the new round. Okay, so this is my last stitch here. So this is decrease round 1. Now for round 2, we're going to pick up the contrasting color again. This time we only have 3 stitches in the center instead of 5. So we're going to pick up this strand here. So you're going to work 2 single crochets, 1, okay, so remember you have your contrasting color back here. Okay, so you're going to go under the strand like you did before, and here are the 3 stitches that we've decreased. The first one would be right here, so you want to insert your hook from this side and through the back, and then you want to grab the contrasting color and pull it through. Again, you always want to complete with the blue. Tug that, make sure you bring it to the front. Okay, so now you have 1, 2, 3 to work your single crochets. That's 1. 2. So we're at the decrease again. Bring this over, go underneath, and again, these are the 3 stitches. Go from this side and through to the back. Grab this color here and pull it through. Oops, you want to finish with the blue. Place this in the front. Okay, so go ahead and repeat that all the way around. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'm at the end here. I placed my stitch marker back in the wrong spot, so you actually have 1 stitch left here. I want to make sure that my contrasting yarn is still in the front. This stitch here is actually the first stitch of your next round. Okay, remember that we're going to pull this from the back. Okay, drop that one. Insert into the stitch right next to this one here, because you want it to look like it's part of this pattern here. So you grab this, make sure it's not too tight, pull it through. Make sure you pull this strand back here because we're going to leave that there for 2 rounds. Now we're going to start with just single crochets. I'm going to insert my hook. You want to grab that loop, okay, and then work your single crochet. Just fix that before you move on. Okay, just pull on the back there. Okay, so now we're going to leave the contrasting color in the back and then work 2 rounds of just single crochets. So now that we have decreased, we're going to have only 3 single crochets instead of 5 right there. Again, make sure you work your stitches loosely. My tension is all off because my camera is in front of me and I'm in a really awkward position. I don't typically record with my phone, but it's quicker, so I'm giving that a try. Okay, so you just want to work 1 single crochet in every stitch, working through the post, and you want to do that for 2 rounds just like you did before. The only difference now is you have less stitches. Okay, again, ignore the stitch marker. Round 5 starts here in the center. It's where we're going to go under the loose strand and pick up the contrasting colors. So for the very first one, of course, we're going to pick it up from the back and then bring it to the front and work the single crochet. So 3 single crochets, and then pick up underneath the strand here. Okay, so it's just like before, we just have less stitches. Okay, so you want to continue that all the way around. 3 single crochets with the blue or the main color, and then you want to incorporate the contrasting color. Okay, next stitch. Pick up the contrasting and finish with the main color. Bring the contrasting forward and continue. 3 single crochets, and add the contrasting. Bring it forward, and I'm just going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, so now I'm at the beginning, and I still need to bring this strand across here, so I'm going to leave that in the front, work my 3 stitches, again. For this last strand, we want to go from behind, okay, right next to that stitch right there. Pull it through, and then getting that out of the way, put it in the back, insert your hook into the next stitch here. Make sure you go through this loop to grab your yarn, if I can find it here. Okay, so to grab your yarn and pull that and leave that in the back. Okay, so now we're going to work 2 rounds of just the single crochets in each of the stitches all the way around. Remember that your first stitch is right here, so you'll end up over here for your last stitch of the round. Keep your contrasting color in the back. Okay, I am planning to close this up soon, and I'm not going to incorporate the contrasting color. So for round 8, work 1 single crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. Here's 1 and here's 2. This is the 3rd stitch of round 8. So here is where you'll start picking up the loose strand. Now I'm going to pick up the other color, pull it up, and then complete it with the blue. So for this round, I'm not going to place the strand in the front because I no longer want to drag it across the front of my work. So I'm just going to go into the next 3 stitches. Okay, then I'm going to go under this strand, through my next stitch, pick up this color here, and then complete it with the blue. Okay, so I'm just carrying a float back here, make sure it's loose or loose enough. This part up here is not going to stretch, so I'm not too worried about it. Also, you can carry it along and catch it on the back. Okay, so for this stitch, I'm going to insert my hook. And then, okay, so make sure that this strand here, you're holding along your work and that it's on top of your hook so that you can catch it as you're working. See how it's like caught into that stitch right there? So if you wanted to catch it, that's what you would do. And you don't have to do that with every stitch. You can just work every other stitch. I usually catch my floats when it's carrying pretty far, but the 3 stitches isn't too bad. Okay, so the next one, again, this is going to be the center of the 3 that you want to go under the strand. Okay, so just continue that all the way around, working your 3 single crochets and then working the next one under this loose strand down here. And when you pick up your yarn, make sure you pick up the contrasting color and then complete it with the blue. Okay, so I went all the way around and picked up these strands without creating another loose strand here. Now I'm just going to work with the blue color. So I'm going to cut off my contrasting color and I'll weave that in later. Okay, so now I'm going to want to work 1 single crochet in every stitch around. And I'm still working into the post. I worked 1 round of just single crochets. Now I'm going to work a decrease round. So this very first one here, and again, if this doesn't line up with what you're doing, just make sure that you work 1 single crochet on these columns here. So this, where the contrasting color is. So if you ended up here, you want to work slip stitch to the very next stitch here. Okay, so that you can start right here. So 1 single crochet, and then in these 3 are going to be decreases. So they're going to be decreased just like before, pulling up a loop from each stitch. Whoops. And then with the 4 loops, you want to yarn over, pull through all 4, and then 1 single crochet. So every time you see the contrasting color below, it's 2 rounds below, you work 1 single crochet, and when you have the 3, you want to work a decrease through all these 3 stitches. Okay, so just repeat that all the way around. Okay, so now it is shaping up here, so you can go ahead and weave through the remaining stitches and cinch it up, or you can work more decrease rounds. So I'm going to work more decrease rounds just to show you what to do if you wanted to continue. Okay, at this point I'm going to work into the actual stitches. So into the first stitch I'm going to work 1 single crochet, and I'll just mark this. Okay, so I'm going to work a single crochet 2 together, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then into the next stitch pull up another loop. So just like the 3 that we decreased, this one's going to be 2. So yarn over, pull through all these 3 loops, 1 single crochet in the next, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 into the next stitch, 1 single crochet. So you're going to continue working 1 single crochet and then a single crochet 2 together. If you like, you can go through just the front loops when you work your decrease. Okay. That way the strand behind it will sort of close in that space right there. So right there. It's up to you, it's personal preference. But I am working through the front loops here just to show you. And now I'm back at the beginning. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to cut a long enough piece of tail. Okay, you want to slip stitch to the first stitch to join. And then pull this out. Grab your tapestry needle. Okay, so you're just going to run your needle through the remaining stitches back and forth. Like so. And there's a faster way to do that. Just by going back and forth. So just tighten that. Make sure you don't break your yarn if you have yarn that's easily breakable. You want to secure that in the inside. Don't forget to secure all your other tails, especially the contrasting color that we cut off here. Okay, so there you have your completed beanie. Don't forget to weave in all of your ends. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so that you'll be notified every time I post a video. I'll see you next time.